So now we're ready to move to Clayton, who's probably dying. So in some ways, Clayton doesn't really need an introduction. We know him best as the one who, with his very capable staff, his incredible staff, keeps us all well fed, keeps us all really happy, and they really definitely aim to please, right? But there might be a couple of things you might not know about Clayton. Maybe some of you do, but you know, Clayton is, he and his wife, parents of 5 children, some of whom they've taken in. They're all young adults at this point. A couple of years ago, Clayton and his family made a little side trip to Haiti, which we'll talk about. And Clayton belongs to the Keystone Fellowship Church in Montgomery County. So it's all yours.
All right. Aside from my 5 children, two are actually one's my niece, one's my nephew. They've been with me for almost 11 years now. So even when they were born, their mother wasn't in a good place. So they've basically been with us their whole life. I guess my journey, if you want to call it that, started, I didn't exactly have a great childhood. I wasn't one of those affluent white suburban kids who had, you know, the loving father. So I kind of always had this compassion for the underdog. I, for lack of a better term, became a victim of the streets by 13. I've been an addict, an alcoholic, just a violent teenage years. So I kind of had like this calloused heart that I just did not let anybody in. I didn't really care about anybody else. It was about me and what I needed to do to get by. Then I started. I just started reading the Bible one day, and my wife was born and raised in the church, so she's always been compassionate, and she was the one that would like reel me in, so to speak, like, you know, whoa, 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 you're getting a little out of control, you know, rein it in. So when my niece and nephew basically needed, their mother overdosed, and their stepfather overdosed as well, and they both died. So we were on board, like, you know, you take care of your family and you do what you do to get by. Well, then I started getting a little soft, and I started getting a little understanding, and I've always worked in restaurants, so I've always been around the calloused people that, like, they'll just hammer you down if you let them. But I started talking to them like they were, you know, people, and realizing, like, wait a minute, like, everyone's got their issues and everyone's got their own problems, so I need to be more compassionate. So I started going to this church, and the pastor there is talking about, you know, if you receive Christ and you truly believe that your sins are forgiven, which I do. Jesus bled for me. I'm a child of God anymore. I'm not a victim. I'm not the angry guy. I'm not an addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm walking it like I talk it. That's my saying, and it's always been that way. If you're going to be a certain way and you're going to talk a certain way, you better act that way. So I start hanging around with, you know, church people, and I start like getting compassionate, and I start getting understanding, and this is like boom, like blowing my mind, because you refer to it as your mountaintop moment. That's a good one, because that's like a mind-blowing moment for me, when all of a sudden I start realizing, like, wait a minute, like, I'm not yelling at this person or just like ripping them a new one because they made a mistake. I'm actually asking them, well, you know, maybe you should try it this way, in a soft tone. I'm not yelling, screaming at them. So then I start getting into the Word more, and reading how, like, you know, Jesus did that. He came on the scene, man, and he went with the dregs of society. He went with a tax collector. Like, no one wanted to hang out with a tax collector. And this guy is like welcoming him, and he became a disciple, which was another mind-blowing moment for me, because in my men's study group, I didn't know anything about the Bible or church or Jesus, for that matter. I thought these dudes were just like born disciples. I didn't know that they were like, they weren't really good guys. They were, you know, they were hard dudes. They were fishermen and tax collectors. So I started realizing, like, hey, Jesus is working through me. Like, he's softening my heart. I'm forgiven, so I can forgive. I need to start acting like that, and my behavior needs to be the light, which this whole day is another mind-blowing thing for me, because this whole common thread, everything that everyone has spoken about, I have written down weeks ago. God is really amazing to me, because he works things out in a way that we can understand them and do them. He doesn't make it so hard that you constantly feel like you're in condemnation because you didn't measure up. He already knows what's going to happen. He already knows what he's put on your heart, and he'll do it. People thought I was crazy because I went to Kensington to give out sandwiches to the addicts, because they don't eat. They don't have a cupboard to go to. And people were like, "Why would you do that?" Because they need to eat, man. Like, feed them. Like, have a little compassion. Which is the whole walk it like you talk it. You know, I have a small group at my house that we meet on Tuesdays, and which is another, like, boom. I would have never thought that there would be a community group in my house. My house was chaos. The 5 teenagers, I pray for patience, and, you know, God is really delivering. We make these, we collect the sandwich bags from the store, or the handle bags, and we cut them down, and we crochet mats for the homeless. So we go into the city, and you just love on people, and you talk to them, and you find out that they're not really that much different. You know, they just had one wrong turn, or one bad decision, or lost their job, or something that wasn't even in their control. When we went to Haiti, I took the kids to Haiti because they needed to see it's not about the newest phone or the latest video game, or, you know, your comfort zone. We need to get out of our comfort zone and reach these people that are just desperate. You can't make a huge change if you're sitting in your comfy, warm home. You know, you could be in the Word, you could be praying all you want, but if you have not made connection with someone and changed somebody's life, you're just talking. You're not doing. When we went to Haiti, these kids got to see, like, there's people sleeping on the ground, man, and there's people that don't have a home. There's people that have a piece of tin for a roof, and like a straw bed to sleep in, and the corruption is crazy there too. Which I'd like to throw a little plug out there for. Poverty Resolution and Thirst No More are 2 groups that I've partnered with. 100% of the money goes to these places. Thirst No More, they put wells in different communities. Poverty Resolution, we just packed up, someone made $1 million donation of seed so we could send it down to Haiti so they could replant, because they're just getting hammered by these storms. And when I went there to see these kids that have nothing, but they're so happy. They're so happy. We taught them how to play checkers with the bottle caps of water bottles. In Malawi, they squish the water bottles and they make soles to tie to their feet, so they have some form of a shoe. But they're so happy, they'll give you those things. they're just content with what they have. So for me to be able to take my children there and just show them there's a flip side, man. Like you don't know what it's like, and when you come back, it is a life-changing experience. You are never going to be the same. And to partner with these groups that these guys gave up great careers in the medical field, and one was a lawyer, and God put it on their heart to help these people, and they walked away from their careers. So for me to be able to just walk alongside these guys, it was crazy. In Haiti, I was kind of a new believer. I had just given myself to Christ, maybe 3 years in, and we're walking through this cane field, and I come across this guy, and the leader says, "Why don't you pray for him?" And I'm thinking in my head, like, I can't, not me. I'm not worthy. I don't know what to do or what to say, and I just asked the Holy Spirit, like, speak through me, give me some words of discernment to relay to this guy. And here it turned out that this guy was running for mayor of this little community, and I was like, wow. But yeah, he was one of the guys that was not corrupt, and I was like, yes, man, I got to like walk alongside this guy and just show him that I'm not here to judge you. I just want to support you. And it turns out that he had made this machine from an engine of a truck, that he made a conveyor belt that would whack the cane down, flatten it, squeeze the juice out of it, shoot it out the back to burn the cauldron that would bubble the cauldron, and he was supporting the locals selling cane syrup. And I was like, I had no idea of any of this, but I just said, Lord, please give me someone that needs some encouragement. And it turns out that it was this guy. So I think, in my experience, and the common thread in this is submission. You need to get out of the way of the Lord and just let Him do His work and submit to what He's telling you to do. Don't try and figure it out. Don't try and alter it to your comfort or the way you want to do it. Just listen and obey, and it'll work out. It always does for me. It always does.
Thank you. Isn't it, before you go, don't go anyplace yet. Isn't it just amazing to hear the stories of people we meet day in and day out and haven't got a clue, right? I think that's what that's a big piece of what you've shared with us today without even realizing it, I think it really is something for us to take to heart. We've all got tasks. We've all got stuff to do, but it's the relationship that we get to know what's really going on in somebody's life. You know, I don't know that people ever look at the food in the same way.
I know what it's like to be the other. I'm covered with tattoos. None of them are offensive, but if you're judging a book by its cover, you're not going to talk to me. Yeah. You're not.
Great stuff, Clayton.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know Clayton was concerned about getting all the lunch meat done with the sandwiches we're going to make, but I think he did more for us this way today, right? You know? Really, and again, you hear that same thread, doing what you can from where you are and letting it unfold. And I thought, the ending notes, too, of Clayton's comments about kind of going with what's in your heart. That is how God is not going to come and speak in our ears, right? It is going to be a sense of you feel a movement within. You just feel something nudging you along. Mysterious, can't quite name it, something bigger than yourself, but you somehow feel like it's nudging you along. That is God's Spirit. That is the movement of God. Take Clayton's advice, go with it. Just let the next step unfold. see where it takes you. You'll know which direction to move in.
He won't steer you wrong.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I want to start bringing this to an end reluctantly. But, I want to thank each and every person who has really shared their life story. Ted, I think they have shown us that love is never static. I think they have put flesh on those words in the front of your program, active, inclusive love. I could have talked about active, inclusive love for the morning, but I don't think you would have gotten it. I think we have really seen examples of active, inclusive love. We Sisters of St. Joseph say that, the kind of union we want to live is one that shows itself in active, inclusive love. Love, that turning toward others in ways that are life-giving. That's what love is. A turning toward others in ways that are life-giving. A selfless turning toward others. Not thinking it's about ourselves, That's love. Active. A love that finds expression in deeds, in actions. As Clayton said to me once when we were talking about this ahead of time, it was like, it's easy to talk. And there's an African proverb, too, I think, that says, when you pray, move your feet. Do I have to have that right? So, love shows itself in deeds. Active love. Inclusive love. A turning toward all others in ways that are life-giving. Every kind of neighbor without distinction. And when we do that, that circle of unity just keeps expanding. It keeps growing. So it's active, inclusive love. We saw stories of that. We are all called to do that, whatever the circumstances of our lives. We need to figure that out for ourselves. For some, it's under the roofs of our own homes with our families. For some, it's with our neighbors. For some, it's with the extended family members. With some, it's with co-workers. We each need to figure out where that is. For some, it might be going to Haiti or Uganda, but that's not going to be for most of us. But we allow ourselves to be shaped by those who do that. So we just need to all figure that out for ourselves in some way. When we do that, when we can let ourselves be shaped by one another and be this force that builds up rather than tears down, that is when we are being light for the world. And if we each kind of light up our corner, we will grow into the wonderful world that God has dreamed of from the very beginning. We'll end with this.